everyone. I'm Christine Tulley, President and Executive Writing Coach at Defend, Publish, and Lead, and welcome to episode 254, Four Tweaks for Academic Writing Month 2025. November is Academic Writing Month, and we've talked about this before in an episode. It was way back in 23. I will make sure that I link to it in the show notes. But one of the reasons why I wanted to make an episode this month was to think about how we could use Academic Writing Month, not so much to give ourselves more work to do or to push harder on projects, but what are things that we could do to actually make our academic writing better in terms of a habit, in terms of a practice, in terms of the way that we approach things? What are things that we could do? So this episode is going to talk about four that might be good tweaks as we get to the end of the actual calendar year, but also during this month where we're actually thinking about academic writing. One of the things that I have encouraged faculty that I support, both at my institution and as clients, to do is to find one day before the end of the semester to write the way that they actually want to do it. So, for example, I work with a group of faculty on campus and we talk about our writing locations. Many of them write in the office, some use a coffee shop, other people use the library. That's where I like to write. But one of the things we talked about was how many times the location is based on convenience or a rut or a habit. And we brainstormed some different ways that we might think about a location for writing. So one of the ways that I used to write a very long time ago was in an empty classroom after a class was over. This semester, I actually have a class where I have an empty classroom. And there's something just about already being there, already sitting and getting some work done that was pretty satisfying, but it's something that I haven't done in a long time. So one of the things that I looked at was what would be a good day for me just to be all prepared after I teach class to just stay there and do some work. Other faculty members who are typically sitting in their office, maybe they'll go somewhere special to write. So one of the other things that I liked to do a long time ago as a grad student was to go to other university libraries. There's something really satisfying about going to a library that's not the one you go in all the time. Different location, different vibe, but still studious. You could go to the very glamorous large library if there's a large academic university near you and you're not already at one. You could also go the other way around and go to like a small college library. But finding a new location could be useful. Looking at length of writing time, one person said that they were really tired of just being bound by time, where they had to cram it in an hour and a half. And they said, I wish that I could have a day to actually get some writing down where I was not under the time pressure. And so we talked about some ways to release some time obligations. In her case, this was a child pickup from school. So they figured out another way to stretch out a day till 5 o'clock, just to not have that watching the clock mentality. Other people, for example, dissertation writers, might say, well, I always put in, 4 to 6 hours a day. And maybe one day they just get to do 30 minutes, just once, before the end of the semester. But also thinking about the purpose for the writing itself. Sometimes during academic writing sessions, we're doing projects because they're obligation things that we owe other people, but we'd actually like to work on something that we want to work on. So just finding one day before the end of the semester to kind of write in the way that would be more of your ideal working conditions can be a way to get in touch with your academic writing again. Another thing to do would be to spend 30 minutes, yes, during your writing session, making a dream academic project list or reviewing some projects that you admire. One of my projects that took forever to do, but was one that was always a dream project, it was always on my list, was a book that I modeled off of the Paris Review interview series Writers at Work. So this was a literary magazine that used to interview novelists and poets and so on about how they actually wrote, meaning what time of day did they write? How did they get names for their characters? How did they did they write every day? Did they write in the afternoon? All those kinds of things are totally of interest to me. And my 2018 book, How Writing Faculty Write, is modeled off of the Paris Review. And that project was one that eventually showed up in my academic writing because it was on a dream list of projects that I wanted to do for a long time. It took me until I got tenure to do it, but I did do it. So one of the things to think through is what are some projects that you haven't done yet, but you want to do? They're still out there. There's still things that you could potentially do. November is a great time to sort of revisit what's something that's a dream project. That's something that we'll be offering just as a little sneak peek on one of our free webinars next year. Will be about doing a dream project, one that you've always wanted to do. How do you make one of those happen? One of the things I say about how writing faculty write as a project, it's been very, very satisfying to just say, like, this is a thing I always want to do. I finally did it. I did it the way, mostly that I wanted to do it. And it's a project I still talk about all the time. So thinking through what that would work, how that would work, is a good use of 30 minutes. Another thing, you could review projects you admire. So if you can't make a list because you don't even know yet, you could just look at projects that you admire in academic writing, an article, a book chapter, and think about some ways that you might be able to make something similar. There's usually a reason why you admire it. It might be the writing style. It could be it was a really complex study. It's about your area of interest. So just looking at some projects that you admire can be a way to think through how you might rejuvenate your academic writing. Another thing to think about would be celebrating others' academic writing. So one of the things with Academic Writing Month is there's a whole lot of bragging going on about how much writing everybody's getting done, but it's also great to celebrate other people as academic writers. So one person that does this really, really well is Jim Lang. He's one of our coaches at Defend, Publish, and Lead, but you know him more for a lot of his work on teaching practices and pedagogy. He's written small teaching, cheating lessons, a number of books, Write Like a Teacher, just books out there. And so one of the things that Jim's really great about is on LinkedIn, anything that he comes across that's interesting to him, he'll make just a quick post about it and throw it out there. And actually, I really like this. I mean, just with him, but also with other people that I follow on LinkedIn, because that gives me some new material to work with. So I'm happy to throw some accolades towards somebody, but I also am discovering new work that way. And you can help somebody else's academic writing journey by throwing, something out there, even 2-3 sentences like, hey, I read this article. It was really great how they applied this XYZ framework to this other thing. Check it out. Here's a link. That's all you have to do. And it's a really great way to kind of spread some good karma in the academic writing universe. Great way to celebrate Academic Writing Month. Another thing to do would just be to take stock of some different areas. So if you're watching on YouTube, I have a chart of 9 areas that you might think about when you're asking yourself one question. What do I need to be a more satisfied academic writer? One of the things that faculty will often say to me is, I need, someone to say yes to my writing. Of course, we all want that. We all want our writing accepted. But what are things that are more in our control that we could do? So some examples would be things like tools. Are you getting back pain because you're sitting in your office chair and it's killing you? Maybe you need a new chair. Maybe your desk is falling apart and every time you crawl under there, you bang your head. Whatever the issue is, you may need some things. You may need to clean up your desktop because you have too many things, too many documents floating around on there. You may need support in some way. So that support could take a number of different ways. Maybe you need somebody to run your methodology, or you need to consult with someone about that. Maybe you need to talk about writing and how, maybe you have imposter syndrome. Maybe you need to have support in that way where you're talking with someone. Accountability. If you don't like showing up for writing, maybe you need to find a way to do some academic writing in a way that you are accountable. So either, joining a faculty writing group, you can work with one of our Defend, Publish, and Lead coaches. You can work with a colleague and say, hey, every Tuesday, let's show up and write together. That way you have some built-in way that you're actually showing up to your writing. But other things you could have. So those are 3. If you're keeping track, there's 9. So I gave you 3. 3 more. Draft review or feedback. Maybe you need somebody to actually read your writing and give you some feedback. Of course, we do that at Defend, Publish, and Lead, but you can have colleagues read it and see if maybe you can do an exchange. I'll read your draft, you read mine. Let's give each other feedback. You might need instruction how to do something. One of the missions of our podcast, but also our free webinars at Eventbrite, is a lot of instruction in academic writing and time management and things like that. So sometimes if I need to figure out how to do something, I will go to YouTube to go find a video, or I'll find somebody that knows how to do it and have them teach me. So that might be something that you need. Maybe you need some reminders about academic writing. one thing that's pretty typical, especially at teaching heavy or intensive universities, is that sometimes scholarly writing, you might start off with a few things happening at the beginning of the semester, but by the time you get to the end of the semester, you've kind of even forgotten that you should be doing any academic writing during the week, if you should be. So reminders, what could you do to help yourself be reminded? One of the things that we do for a lot of our clients is we do Tuesday Toolbox. So that's something that comes out every Monday. And what it is a quick little writing lesson. Here's how to do something. And yes, it's cool to learn how to do the something in the video, but also just the fact that you're getting it every single week is a way to get a reminder. There's lots of things like that. You could subscribe to podcasts. You could subscribe to our podcast if you don't already. There's some academic writing ones out there, but all of those things get a culture where you're doing academic writing and it's a part of your life. The last three would be things like locations. Do you need to find a new spot to write to be more satisfied as an academic writer? Do you need more conversation about writing? One of the best things I would say about writing coaching, whether it's ours or somebody else's, is that it's great to have a conversation about a writing project with someone that has the time to actually talk to you about writing, ask good questions, have a dialogue about, all right, well, you just said this thing over here, but I'm not really sure what the relationship is between X and Y. Can you explain that? Having that live feedback is often very satisfying, and especially if somebody understands your work better as a result. So it's great to get involved in any kind of like disciplinary chats, or sometimes there'll be these birds of a feather session at conferences where you can all talk on a specific issue. Project management would be a last thing. Maybe you need to just get a grip on what's happening with all your writing projects. Maybe it's not the writing itself. You just need to do some cleanup on habits. So of course, at Defend, Publish, and Lead, we can help you with a lot of those things, but there's lots of places to look for these things in other locations. So checking out those things, those 9, I'll say them again: tools, support, accountability, draft review, instruction, reminders, locations, conversation, project management. Any of those areas are all areas that you could look at to tweak to make yourself more satisfied as an academic writer. One of the other things that you can do as we close out this episode, take advantage of some free ways to learn about writing. So we mentioned the free webinars we do on Eventbrite. If you follow Defend, Publish, and Lead, you'll get a notification every time we post one. But we are doing our annual Maintaining Writing Momentum in December. So this episode is coming out mid-November of 2025. And every year we do a December episode about getting some writing done in that month of December. A lot of people view it as sort of a throwaway month with the holidays. They just can't get anything done. But there are ways you actually can get some stuff done before you get to the end of the semester, if that applies to you. So check us out on Eventbrite. Also, I mentioned, looking at what would make you more satisfied. If you are thinking at all about coaching, we do have our holiday coaching special going on where ours are at the lowest price of the year. So you can check out our different discounts and things like that by following us on LinkedIn. But also at the moment, it would be by 11 hours, you can get an hour free. There are also some additional Black Friday specials going on this week at this time of the semester. You can catch them on LinkedIn. You can also email me at Christine@defendpublishlead.com and ask about coaching if you're interested. We definitely do free consultations. So if you go to our website, you can click there and chat. And one of the things you can use your 30 minutes of a free consultation for is to figure out what's making you not satisfied with your academic writing. What are some things that you might want to change, and get some quick suggestions or tips that are personalized to your situation. We're happy to have you listening this week, and happy writing.